So guys, right after this message from Tanzu Data, you'll hear from retired Colonel Aaron Swain and Director of Transformation for Tanzu on how to drive outcomes in the public sector. Stick around after Aaron for a technical session with Robert Van Voorhees on driving value with Kubernetes. Thanks.
In today's world, data is the most important asset that any organization has. The ability to extract value from that data and operationalize that process is a critical aspect of digital transformation. VMware Tanzu Data Services are a foundational set of data services that includes caching, message brokering, and transactional, analytical, and NoSQL databases. And because our products are infrastructure-native solutions, we allow you to take advantage of your data where you want it. Kubernetes, the public or private cloud, or on bare metal. All of these foundational services are managed by a data management control plane that provides the scale and reliability you would expect from VMware. VMware Tanzu Data Services are the golden standard of the software-defined data platform. As a part of the comprehensive stack known as VMware Tanzu, our open-source-based data services allow you to leverage the most popular technologies for new modern applications while also reducing the expense of existing applications by removing proprietary and legacy data technology. Whether you are a developer, an operator, an analyst, or an end user, imagine the efficiencies of provisioning, running, and managing your data services at scale, across clouds and infrastructures, but with an experience that matches a single public cloud. Data management for Tanzu is our data control plane that lets operators manage fleets of databases across infrastructures and across clouds while also giving users both an API and GUI for provisioning and managing their own databases, just as they've grown accustomed to and are asking for. No matter where you deploy and no matter where you are on the modernization journey, come to VMware Tanzu and experience the best in foundational data services.
All right, I think I'm up. How's everyone going? How's everyone doing? Usually I got a bunch of faces I'm engaging with, but I'll definitely make this work. I'm Aaron. I'm from VMware, the Director of Digital Transformation for our public sector modern apps business. I'm going to talk to you all about how to transform, some basic steps you can take. But I even think transformation is kind of an old term nowadays. We're trying to use now kind of modernizing our government with software. Back in 2011, Mark Andreessen published an article in the Wall Street Journal where the simple statement was, software is eating the world. In that article, I'm getting pinged on text, sorry. In that article, he talks about the startups of the world disrupting some other businesses. Borders Books, if any of you all remember that, never thought about selling books online. And now there's a thing called Amazon. Blockbuster, just the online move of movies. And companies like Netflix and Redbox disrupted them. I spent the last two decades serving in the government, most of which was as a data scientist. Look at the spend in IT last year. It was $87.1 billion. Sometimes I sit back and wonder why the travel system is so manual and painful, why we can't push or pull data from our mission software, and why the success rate of some of the major software programs is just 8%. How do we prevent countries and competitors from disrupting our way of life, just like the Amazons and Netflixes did to their competitors? Software is eating our government. We must rapidly modernize. I've got some ideas, some of which I took when I built a startup inside our government, and now that we help out our clients from VMware. Three simple steps, although they're not so simple. And there's a bunch of other ones within there, and I'll talk about each of them. But when I was government a few years ago, I started an effort to insource our mission-relevant software, trained the workforce, upskilled all government talent, and empowered them to solve problems on their own. I optimized their path to production, where software became real. And I share these kind of steps for how we all in the government can continue to compete with software. The first thing is you kind of got to see yourself to make a case for change. There's three tools that are out there that you all can use. One is called the DevOps Research and Assessment. They have some simple metrics of how to measure yourself. Google sponsors that group. Another one led by Eric Schmidt, the Defense Innovation Board reports and recommendations, which I'll provide links to, and I'll talk about how I've used these in the past. And then finally, I've kind of broken it down to some 5 simple questions you can ask yourself to really see yourself, see your organization, see how your software delivery is generating outcomes, then make that case to change if necessary. There's a link here to the door metrics that are online. And they have kind of 4 simple questions, and then you can kind of compare yourselves against similar industries. You can measure things like your lead time, how long it takes you to commit code, and then actually get that code into a production environment. You can measure your deployment frequency or the cadence that your teams deploy working software into a production environment. If you create an outage, you can measure your time to restore. Or something like change failure rate, the percentage of changes that result in a failure when you push that to a production environment. You can select the industry that you're in, and then you'll come back with kind of a performance score of how you're doing. Some organizations obviously score better than others, and you can kind of use it as a catalyst to create some changes if you need to. I'm a huge fan of the Defense Innovation Board. They published a paper of how to kind of detect agile BS, and some simple questions you can ask of your own development teams. Some of these are very, very simple, very, very easy to get the answers, and you can quickly detect if you're doing it right, like they recommend, or if you kind of fall down into the agile BS category. Are your teams delivering working software to real users at every iteration? Very easy to grade. I can't tell you how many systems, how many projects I've seen that are in a lab somewhere or on someone's laptop, or even on a PowerPoint slide. It's delivering these workloads to real users at every iteration is what really counts. Feedback from users turned into concrete work. Does that feedback turn into backlog items that your development teams then work on? How long is that backlog? It shouldn't be much more than a month. Teams empowered to change their own requirements based upon the user feedback they get. Too many times in government, the requirements are pushed down from the top instead of born up from the users and then into the development teams. And then our teams empowered to even change their process based on what they learn. Simple questions you can ask your own teams, evaluate your own organization to make a case to change. I've kind of boiled these down to some 5 simple questions that we use internally here within VMware in our modern apps business to grade our own delivery, and then also to present it to clients that we work with to kind of see how we're doing. Number 1, are you in production right now? Software is not meaningful until it's in a production environment. And in government, sometimes it's extremely hard to get in those production environments. Is your software fully adopted by users? It's not enough just to be in production, but users need to be using that software. Is your software moving the needle on the mission? We don't do this for back office functions. We do this to change how our government operates. The mission should come first. And then can you make code changes based upon that user feedback and then push that to production today? And can you do this at scale every day? We mean to answer yes, 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 and yes in all these. And then you can also use these questions also to kind of grade your own work and see how you're doing and maybe change. Step number 2, like we just heard the Army Futures Command talk about, which is growing software talent culture and empowering those teams to focus on the mission. Today, everyone competes for the same digital talent. Government struggles to pay those folks as well as we can on the outside, so it's extremely hard to hire them. When I try to scale my effort within the government, I try to scale by hiring outside talent, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't entice people to come in. So one option is, like the Army just talked about, is upskilling the current talent. There's tons and tons of untapped talent on there, maybe misaligned somewhere else. Part-time hackers, empathetic and driven future product managers, designers, platform engineers. Find those folks and align them with their passion and to work differently. The culture, like the Army talked about, is another extremely important. Software is built by humans, built by teams. Those teams need to practice lean. You need to be safe to everyone collaborate together to bring up what is the best answer. Focus on the mission, obsessed with customers, balanced. There's a whole lot that goes into software culture. And then finally, empower these young small teams. General Stanley McChrystal wrote a book called Team of Teams for his time when he was in the Joint Special Operations Command. But those same principles apply to the IT orgs, where teams that are balanced kind of can work across lines to deliver things differently. You can guide them by giving them intent instead of telling them how to do things. Give them the why, and these teams will amaze you. And then kind of the step number 3, which is optimizing your path to production. It's so critically important. Software doesn't become real unless it's used inside of production, fully adopted. In my experience in the government, the path to prod is like wading through a swamp. It's extremely hard to get through all these different steps. Security blocks your way at frequent times. Regulations, policies are all out there. Optimizing your path to production means removing that toil and automating as much as possible, so your software teams can seek fast feedback loops. Providing the right tools on demand. Modern and automated CI/CD, building in those automated test scans into the pipelines, giving them consistent environments in dev, stage, and prod. And then automating and partnering with your security and compliance teams, pulling them left and making them part of the team, and practice the term we call continuous RMF, which is we don't just go through the security gate once a year, you're doing it daily in a continuous type manner. This is basically what we do. We are here to help. We provide the software to build, run, and manage any application in any environment. And we provide the services to modernize your software practices, culture, and intent. We do this to deliver outcomes with software. This is the heritage of VMware. We come from Pivotal Labs all the way back to 1989, and some bit of our heritage. In the 2000s, we worked with these Silicon Valley startups who went on to disrupt their industry verticals with software. In the 2010s, we pivoted to the Fortune 500s to save many of them, and so they can expand their own market share by becoming software companies themselves. Starting in 2016 and 17, the U.S. federal government came with NGA, the Space Force, the Air Force, the Army. We've learned a ton along the way, which we have open sourced much of these practices to the community. We pivoted to Pivotal. We pivoted to Kubernetes.